So you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Well, forget about stocks, real estate, or cryptocurrency. Good morning. We'll get started here in one little less than a minute. I'm just giving everybody a chance to come into the room. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's, a couple things going on. We have Serendipity Sunday, which is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're out here. I pushed it back to 9:05 this morning. We're doing it in conjunction with, we're in the middle of, we're 11 days or 12 days in to 40 days of releasing. Today is the 11th day, so normally we get together every morning, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 6:15. Then on Saturday at 9, and then so this Sundays we have historically had our Serendipity Sunday. I'm combining that on today, so I'm sorry about any level of confusion that it may have brought into your lives on this morning. But if you're here listening to me, clearly you have persevered. So we're going to get started with the meditation this morning. We're going to get started with our breathing exercise. So I ask that you just bear with us, those of you who are on the YouTube channel and who are tuning in to what is traditionally known as our Serendipity Sunday time together. We're combining it. Okay. So good morning. I get to see many of you who are joining in through the Zoom platform that historically not on this platform. Welcome. So just stay with me. I'm going to walk you through this morning's process. So we're going to start by just centering ourselves wherever you are this morning. I want you to take a moment, look around, make sure you're in a safe space, and believing that you are. Now I would like you to just simply position yourself for maximum participation. By this time, you should be out the bed, so you should grab a chair that's comfortable, a space that's comfortable. If you need to, go into the bathroom and close the door for the next few minutes, and that way you can be present to this experience. So right where you are right now, just take a big breath in through your nostrils. Hold that breath. Now exhale, releasing, relaxing all the way down. And as you come to the bottom of the breath, just simply pause and place a soft, gentle smile on your face, holding this smile for the duration of this morning's breathing exercise. Now together, let us move into our next breath. Big breath in through the nostrils, expanding your lungs to full capacity. Hold that breath. Now exhale through your mouth, all the way down to the bottom of the breath, holding that smile on your face. Now let's move into our next breath together. Big breath in, expanding your lungs to full capacity. Hold the breath. allowing every cell, every system, every organ, the entirety of your physical being to be infused with love, light. Now exhale, releasing that which no longer serves you, all the toxins, all the adulterants, all the thoughts, letting go all the way to the bottom. And as you come to the bottom of the breath, continue to breathe in and out at your own pace. As I take you into this morning's meditative thought, continue to breathe and follow that breath in and out. Just as the sea does not resist, for this morning we're dealing with the process of non-resistance. And just as the sea does not resist the friction of the wind on its surface, nor does the grass resist rains, storms, and snowfalls, I allow the circumstances and experiences of life to wash over me right now. In this way, you feel free, and you free yourself from the state of internal struggle and weakness that opposition and resistance cause. You practice acceptance and live life with no strings attached. For we find that sage Jesus says, do not resist an evildoer. So let circumstances flow and stay focused on omnipresent love. The power to choose is always in each of us. Let's practice using it wisely. Non-resistance is a process that occurs in our conscious as we recognize, accept, and affirm that in God, source, divine intelligence, there's nothing to fear. The only presence and the only power that exists in the universe is absolute good and is always with us. Holding this awareness will make everything work together for our good. The scripture that supports that this morning is found in Matthew 5:39. But I say unto you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. Our affirmation this morning, I'll state it once and we will affirm it twice. I choose not to resist today. I choose not to resist today. I choose not to resist today. So let us go into 10 seconds of silence. And I pray as we rise into this day, a new day, a day that is called today. We affirm as we do each and every day that where we are, source is. Where we'll go, source will be there. And on the journey, source is with us. We affirm this morning that there is a power greater than us, a power that surrounds us, a power that creates all that we see, a power that even resides in those that we consider our enemy, a power within that we can use. So as we rise this morning, we choose to use this power that is lying dormant in oh so many. We send words of power this morning. We send words of power and peace to those who are less fortunate than ourselves. I send love and light for those who are under the sound of my voice. I send a vibrational frequency that lands upon your eardrums and that frequency adjusts sickness, dis-ease, disharmony, anything that is going on the inside that does not represent Source's highest, greatest good for you. And as we step into this new day, this next day called today, I invite you to join me this morning for this message on miracles. And I say, Ashe, and so it is. Amen. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. For those who joined here this morning, who have been participating in the 40 days of releasing, I want to make a special mention that this affirmation that I gave you this morning about choosing to resist, not to resist. I want to reframe that because this is one of those scriptures, Matthew 5:39. I think that is one of the scriptures that has been used historically to pacify or to cause those who have been held hostage to be resistant to the abuse that has been lodged on them, and pacify them with a spiritual system, with religious doctrine and scripture such as this that says, don't resist an evildoer, or to turn your cheek. Now, I want to clarify something this morning. First of all, if this is written to someone in your spiritual community, then you can apply this. But if you're engaging someone who does not believe like you believe, who do not have your best interest in mind, you need to know that if you know someone who is an evildoer, who has evil intentions towards you, you need to be mindful and protect yourself. You need to also get away from that individual. And the other side of that is turning if anyone strikes you on the cheek. Now, if you're attacked, you have the right to retaliate. But be mindful even of that, how you respond. If it's someone who you love, someone who is just having a bad moment, the retaliation may not be the best thing to do. It will just make matters better. But for the most part, if you're attacked by someone who does not have your highest and greatest good, then you can operate inside the law of reciprocity. Give back to them what they've given to you. And hopefully you give it to them at a bigger dose that it cuts that stuff off. Okay. So that's that. So I'm not one who's going to stand around and push any kind of message that does not allow you to have quality of life, elongation of life, and also to experience your highest and greatest good. And so for the most part, that's one of the scriptures that many people have exited traditional Christianity because they have seen that it has been a setup for others to come up on us. So good morning. It's good to see those of you who are in the Zoom room. I see quite a few of you. I see your comments. I send out my prayers. Our continued prayers go out to our dear sister Clayton, Myrna, and Maia. We send love and light to you as you are inside of that season of dealing with the transition of your mom. So our heart goes out to you, and I'll reach out to you this week. I gave you some space because I'm sure everybody has been reaching out to you. And to those of you who are on the Zoom platform, not the Zoom platform, the YouTube platform this morning, I think there's about 7 or 8 people there watching it at this present moment. I say good morning to you, and invite you in this morning to our brief conversation, or it's not really a conversation because it's a teachable moment for me, but we may have an opportunity for you to engage in some conversation. So I want to talk about this morning. If you saw the email that I sent out, there was a locust flower there. I'm going to allude to what that's all about. But I'm talking about this month. I'm talking about miracles, manifestations, and mindful living. Inside of this conversation, we must start with the definition of a miracle. If you were to look in the Oxford Dictionary, it defines a miracle as a surprising and welcomed event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws, and therefore considered to be the work of divine agency. Now, I would like to tweak that because I believe science is spirit and spirit is science, and that everything that you experience from the spiritual aspect, it can be understood, explained through science. So I am a spiritual scientist. I am a spiritual practitioner, and it's all based on the science of living. So I want to ask you this morning, would you welcome a miracle? I'm looking here this morning as some people are communicating with me via the text messages, And so that way I can see if there's something I'm missing. So if you do have a question, you can put it in the text message to me. You have my text number and we'll go from there. So my question this morning, would you welcome a miracle, okay, in your life? Do you even believe in miracles? And if you were to have that miracle transpire in your life, what would that miracle be? Myself, I've personally experienced miracles on many levels. I have experienced miracles that gave me the message I needed in the moment. I have experienced the miracle of an angel. I have one instance when I was struggling. I was having a lot of cognitive dissonance. And I had just been called into ministry, my calling into the pastoral level. So 10 years after ministry, being called into the next level. So I was struggling. I was struggling because I had completed my master's in counseling psychology. I've been introduced to a lot of other information that was outside of my scope of knowing, and part of that had to do with Black psychology, which evolved into being introduced to what was called Egyptology, and ultimately has moved into chematology. And then there was just a lot of challenges I was facing. Matter of fact, the first message I preached inside of my call to the pastorate had to do with, can these bones live? And it had to do with the story of Ezekiel and the valley of dry bones. And when you look at that story metaphorically, it really talks about the state of the Black community. Though we are alive and well, but we're living as dry bones. So I preached that message, and then I had a miracle. After that message was preached, I pretty much was told that the church I was at wasn't down with that kind of message, and that the church was not a place to teach history. Now, that was a mystery to me, because how can you not teach history, or you didn't want to teach history that was revising what has been given to us in a way, because the Bible is a history book for most people. We look at Jesus Christ, we look at the disciples, we look at all the characters from a historical perspective, but even in that, you would be hard pressed to find proof of any of the disciples, any of the biblical characters. You will be hard pressed to find proof of them other than those individuals who are spoken to, like the pharaohs. You can find historical proof that they exist, but you can't find any historical proof, any artifacts of anyone else existing. So, but that's not my message this morning. My message this morning is about miracles. And I want to share with you. And so I was talking about the miracle I had experienced. I was on my way to work this particular winter morning, and I had got off the L downtown Chicago, and it was in the sub level, and I was taking the escalator up. And as I got onto the escalator, matter of fact, as I got onto the escalator, there was an older Black gentleman sitting across from me, and he was staring at me through this whole trip. I was coming through the West Side. And so he got off the train also, but it seemed like I was the only one seeing this dude. And so he got onto the escalator right of like 4 steps in front of me, and there was no one between us. And he turned around and he started singing, "Go down, Moses, and tell Pharaoh to let my people go." And so I didn't really think anything of it until I kind of looked around, and it became apparent to me that I was the only one seeing this dude and hearing this dude, because nobody else was responding. People reading the papers, people digging in their purses, people was coming and going. And so it caught me really off guard. And so I was listening, and he was singing, "Go down, Moses, tell Pharaoh to let my people go." And then when we got to the top of to the landing, when I got to the top, he disappeared. I didn't see, I went up one stairwell, I didn't see him there. I went up the other one, and it was like weird. So that was an event for me that I was entertaining an angel unaware, and the angel was giving me a very specific message. And my message which is a message of liberation, which is a message is that I have been given, and I still champion this message about we have to be liberated, and we have to liberate ourselves. The message to you is to tell your brain, tell your past experiences to let you go. And that kind of comes into this morning's message. So this morning, I want to deal with this message regarding miracles. So when we talk about a miracle is just really a new thought, or it starts with a new thought. For when you look in the Bible, for those of you who are with me, majority of you follow after some level of Christian, or have been impacted by some level of Christianity. It says to you in Matthew 8, it is done unto you as you believe. What is done unto you as you believe? Here we see the centurion was asking for a miracle, and we see the teacher, Jesus says to him, it is done unto go. It is done unto you as you believe. So behind every miracle, foundation to a miracle is what you believe. If you don't believe in miracles, you'll never receive a miracle. If you expect miracles, there's a good chance that you will experience a miracle. And so this month, I want to deal with miracles from the perspective of they're predicated upon your belief. And many of us have no clue what we really believe. Many of us believe in a hodgepodge way. Unlike no other time in history, when I talk to believers, you see that although they may belong to the Baptist church, but they listen to T.D. Jakes, or they belong to T.D. Jakes type of ministry, but they're listening to Michael Beckwith, or they're listening to Louise Hay, or they're listening to Abraham Hicks. So even though individuals may identify as a Christian, or as a Baptist, or as a Church of God in Christ, or Word of Faith, or when we look at the New Thought, you may say your divine science, religious science, or unity. One of the things I'm finding is there's too much enmeshment, meaning people are mixing all of these beliefs and they come away with no power, because they believe on one side one thing, but believe on the other side the other thing, and they negate each other. So I want to give some clarity this month regarding what it is you believe. So this month, I'm going to explore the belief system from the perspective of the influence that our spiritual pathways have on our beliefs. We're going to look at divine science. That's one of the New Thought ministries that I participate in here in St. Louis, Missouri. Matter of fact, I'm teaching there this morning at 11 o'clock. So you can find that on the YouTube channel. In addition to that, we have religious science. They're also known as Centers for Spiritual Living. Okay, religious science, that's Ernest Holmes. And then they've been evolved into about 400 churches across the country, Centers for Spiritual Living. Then we have another New Thought type ministry is Unity. Charles Fillmore and his wife in Unity Village here in Missouri. So Lee's Ferry, I believe, Missouri. And then we have the Word of Faith. So I group the Word of Faith because I have found that for the most part, the traditional Protestant churches have evolved to a level of Word of Faith, the power of the Word. So those are four different religious experience or denominations that we're going to look at. And we're going to look at divine science today as it pertains to healings or miracles. Now, if you got the email, you saw there was a flower on the email. The flower that was represented was the lotus. Back in the days of Egypt or Kemetic times, the lotus flowers was very important to their religious practice, meaning creation and rebirth. So the lotus represents creation, rebirth. It was a symbol of the sun because at nightfall, the lotus would close up and goes beneath the water. And in the dawn, it will climb up above the waters and reopen. So it'll be submerged and then it'll rise again. And so that is so similar to the Assyrian drama that says at night you go to sleep, you submerge, you go through the underworld, and then you rise the next day. And so the lotus flower oftentimes is just looked at to represent the Eastern mysticism, Hinduism, Buddhism, but it has a strong correlation to the Kemetic or the Nile Valley ancient spiritual system. So this morning, let's step into divine science. And I'm stepping inside of divine science because we're dealing with the miracle aspect today. So I wanted to kind of unpack that for all of us this morning. What does divine science have to say about miracles? And so we want to look at that this morning. And the best way to look at that is to give you some basic tenets of it. Now, I'm not going to give you everything you need to know, but I'm going to give you enough to know that if you are following after the divine science pathway, you are familiar, or if you're not following after it and you may be interested in it, you have enough information to start your search. So when we talk about divine science, and I did explore, you can go to the Divine Science Federation the Divine Science Federation International website, and you'll find this information a little bit more. And I made an observation that on their website, they have this banner, and I'm calling people out. On their website, they have this banner, and there's not one person of African descent on there. There's no person of color. And when I'm talking about color, I'm talking about hue. I see all other people groups represented there. So they have the audacity in 2023 to have an oversight that you say you have an inclusive, all new thought is built upon inclusivity. All Christianity was built on inclusivity, but we don't see it. And so I'm kind of calling it out this morning too. So divine science was first taught in 1888 by this female woman by the name of Melinda E. Kramer. It's a spiritual path as well as a practical science that teaches we are all sacred beings made in the image and likeness of our Creator. So they teach this, we all sacred beings, but we're not seeing it manifested. The one thing I have found through all spiritual systems is high ideals. But the reality is, unless those who are practicing these systems transform themselves, they stand inside of a system with an ideal, but they are still living as less than creatures, meaning they're still doing things against other people, or they are still looking at themselves as mere human beings versus divine spiritual beings. So when we look at the divine science, they say that we're created in an image after the likeness of our Creator, like Christianity. We are continually present to source, and source is always present to us and inside of us. As children of the one divine Creator, they state, we are all connected to it and to each other. By living our lives in accordance with this truth and all that expresses from it, we are sure to lead a more happy and fulfilled life. And this is what divine science says. So the individuals were Melinda Kramer. Back in 1884, it started with, she had a medical issue, and the doctors, after 25 years, she was fed up that the inability of doctors to provide a cure. So she declared, according to their history, she declared, I will not see another physician. And so sometimes contrast comes in our lives to get us to a point where we say, what I've been doing hasn't worked, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And it's insane that so many people continue to do what they've been doing with the hope that this is the time that they'll get the manifestation. But I'm saying to each of us who are under the sound of my voice today, that if what you've been doing, and you've been doing it the same systematic way, is not working, then you need to change the way you're doing that. Now, you may not make a big shift or of leaving what you've been doing, but you need to tweak it in some way to get a potentially different outcome. So she wrote in Divine Science and Healing. She began to write in her journal, and many of her friends began asking her for treatments, and she was born. She soon came, found herself to be setting aside one afternoon every week for treatments for individuals. Okay. And in 1888, she began to do it full time, and she called it divine science. Now that's Melinda Kramer. Then she ultimately hooked up with these the Brooks sisters, and they created what we call divine science. They attended these classes, and they began to repeat this mantra: God is my health. I cannot be sick. And initially, the Brooks sisters discounted the practice, but continued with the class. And then eventually, suddenly, Nona Brooks was healed. Nona Brooks was healed also because she was saying this thing. And so what I'm saying to you, when you look at this, you see that individuals have these experiences based on what their expectations, it's based on their belief systems. And we need to begin to look at our belief systems. So we look at the belief system of the divine science, according to those who lead it. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Erwin Gregg in Divine Science. And he says, divine science teaches complete faith and intelligence of the universe. We differ from some of the other groups. We are doing very fine work, according to him, because we do not go into visualizing or outlining what our highest and greatest good is. He says we believe, or that they believe, that God knows what's best for them. Our belief is the omnipresence, and our expression of it is the statement of being. Now, what is their statement of being? Now, listen to this statement of being, because you're going to find, as you listen to many of these gurus on Facebook, YouTube, those who call themselves New Thought, those who call themselves positivity, purveyors of positivity, they are enmeshed in all of these things. But I wanted to kind of compartmentalize these different groups so you have a better sense of why you choose to do what you do. So in their statement of belief, they say, God is all, both invisible and visible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, perfect substance. We are all individualized expressions of source or God. They use the term God, and everyone with this perfect life, perfect love, perfect substance. So this is their statement of being. Now, one of the truths that divine science, they have lessons and truths. And one of the first truths they teach you is the omnipresence is truth. That is, the omnipresence of source is truth. What does this mean? That means God includes you right now. It means that God love is caring for you right now. It means that God's wisdom is guiding you right now in whatever challenge you have. The reason why we want a miracle is because we have a problem. And so a miracle will solve the problem that you have not been able to solve the way you've done. So inside of the omnipresence of truth, God's wisdom is guiding you, or has the ability to guide you if you know it's there. They say God's abundance is supplying your present need. You can trust this power and must not fear. You are thankful for the truth that makes you free. It's the truth you know that makes you free. To know means to be intimate with. So when you look at the omnipresence, which they speak to, is the truth. This is something that we espouse, but many of us don't live it. We have fear. We have thoughts of lack. We still hold on to our problems because we have not identified with the omnipresence. Okay. And then it has, these are looked at as affirmations. We must learn to live faithfully by these truths if you are a divine science person. Now, in her lessons on truth, in lesson 3, she talks about the foundation. Now, this is foundational, particularly when we pray. It says, when you pray, stand first, you forgive, because your unforgiveness gets in the way of you being able to actualize or to manifest the thing you want. So if you want to manifest a miracle, according to divine science and according to basic Christianity, you must exercise love. And that's a very difficult thing to do, particularly if you define love based on this emotional thing. So in this lesson, the third lesson she teaches is called the religion of divine science. Okay, so it talks about the religion of divine science. What is divine science tied to? And here it is. Love is the supreme gift. It is the kingdom of God within. So again, we see this word tossed around called love. They say God is love, and he who dwells in love dwells in God, and God in him. And the scripture tells us there's 2 commandments where Jesus particularly specifically speaks to this. He said, "Thou shalt love the Lord," or the way I say that, "Thou shalt love the law." You need to come into relationship with the basic 7 laws, the hermeneutical laws they call them. Thou shalt love the law, thy God. So the expression of source should be these laws with all your heart and with all your soul. That is not only your heart, but you should love it with your brain. That is your reasoning faculty. Okay. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Here Paul is talking. This is Paul talking here. Paul sees the love is the fulfilling of the law, that above prophecy, above the understanding of mysteries, above knowledge of faith and deeds of charity is love. So we have to understand that this is an action thing. So as New Thought divine science practitioners, we need to each of us be found practicing love in our thinking and our doing. And first of all, the love for self. Because how can you love source who you cannot see, but don't love yourself? And you are a outward manifestation, a material manifestation of source. So you got to learn to love yourself, your entire phenotype, the skin that you're in. You got to be okay with who you are. And so that's a good step. Another action step you have to take, is there a dreaded task ahead? Is there something on my soul path? Is there something on my journey that I must take on? So I have to learn to delight in the service of unfoldment. And I'm not talking about the service of other people, but you have to be in the service of being in the experience, dealing with the contrast, and not just to get out of it, but to grow through it. Now, is there suffering? They talk about inside of divine science, they deal with suffering. Divine science was birthed out of the fact that all 3 of these women had some physical ailment that they were sick and tired of dealing with. They tried all the medical recommendations, but nothing was happening. So the inside of divine science, they talk about, is there limitations is there suffering? So he says, let us know that divine love is healing presence. So the possibility of healing is always present, but you have to know where it comes from. Is there any limitation? So when we look at limitations, we need to know that source is abundance and source is love. Love shares its abundance with all. So I really kind of don't like to use that term love because it has been hijacked to mean emotional affection that we have. But love is a deeper active word. The scripture tells us in 1 Corinthians about love being kind and love being long suffering. All the things that we don't see being practiced by many of these religions or these spiritual pathways. When you look at Christianity, they don't practice that. Love is not kind. When you look at what has happened to Africans in the diaspora, we find that we have to hold them accountable because they did this in the name of their belief systems. So in lesson 8, which I want to bring you into this morning, how shall you solve your problem? So your problem is that the solving of your problem would be the miracle. And that's what I wanted to focus on. So when we look at this particular lesson in truth in the divine science, the purpose was to show that the problems are not our enemies. Whatever you're going through, it's not your enemy, but it's your friend from the perspective. It's part of your soul journey. That your problems are opportunities to demonstrate. So how did I get to know healing except I had a problem? My first experience with healing had to do when I was a kid and was diagnosed as an asthmatic and also with certain levels of allergies and had to go to the doctor every week and get a shot. Or every week I had to go to get this treatment. Until I did this probably about a year, because I remember riding my bike one summer to go to the doctor to get this treatment. And on the way riding back, I was saying, if God is God, why do I have to go to a go-between? Why do I have, now here I am probably, at this point, I'm probably about 15 or 16. I'm asking myself, why does God need intermediary? Why does he need a doctor to give me a shot? Or why do I need to eat a certain food to get an outcome? So it just didn't rest well with me. But if I had not had that experience, I would not have begun to think on this level. And so I got to the point where I said to myself, when I would have an asthmatic episode, I found that they usually last 3 days. I was down, wasn't representing my highest and greatest good for 3 days. And then I started to see when you have a situation, it gives you time to think about it. And then I began to say, what if I can get it down to 2 days? So ultimately, I started when I would have an episode, an experience, it would last 2 days. I said, okay, if I can get it down to 2 days, I can get it to one. So I got it down to 1 day. So when I would have an episode, it would only last for 24 hours. And then I said one day, why do I even have to have the episode? And so then I came to the realization that I didn't have to have the episode. So I stopped taking the shots. I stopped going to the doctor. Now, I'm not advocating any one of you do this, but I'm telling you that the rubber had to meet the road for me. And so I got to the point where I just said, I'm divinely created. I don't get sick. I went 30, almost 40 years without getting sick. Now, there are some times when I could sense that there's a possibility of sickness looming in my near future, then I would do certain things. I would go into resetting my mind. I would ask myself, where is this coming from? If it's coming from perhaps I wasn't dressed properly, and then I know next time I don't do that. But if it's not because I wasn't dressing properly, can't figure out why this is beginning to manifest in my body, I go into my own prayer treatment and I shift that situation. So when we talk about spirituality, it has to be practiced. It has to be not something you just hold in your head, but it has to be something you move into your heart. And so when I look at the divine science lesson in truth number 8, and it talks about this, shall we solve our problems? I resonate with that. In the lesson 8, it talks about we are here to grow, and we grow by solving our problems. That means without a challenge, you don't grow. Go to the gym. If you keep picking up 10 pounds early on, maybe that gave you a little more definition, strengthen you. But if you really want to maximize, you have to increase the weight. You got to have resistance. So when we go through life, look at situations and circumstances as resistance. And it's your responsibility to deal with the resistance. And so a problem to me is resistance. A problem to me is contrast. So divine science believes you're here to grow by solving your own problems. To solve a problem means to get the right answer. We are not to be designed or resigned to hard conditions, our unsolved problems. That is, whatever is going on in your life that does not represent your highest and greatest good, you don't have to resign yourself to, this is my lot in life. We are created in the image, after the likeness. We have the propensity to do God's stuff. We are to solve our problems. If God is source, is omnipotent, omnipresence, and you're created of the same stuff, then you have the omnipresence of source outsourcing through you physically as you, and that you have the ability to solve. So how do you do this according to divine science? First, you must take the right attitude. Okay, we know that's positive thinking. Your attitude determines your altitude. So we must take the right attitude toward our environment with its multifolded process. Right attitude regarding the setups. Every setup is the opportunity for every setup is an opportunity for a come up or a comeback. So when you have something going on in your life, if you learn to work through it, not as a victim, but as a participant, okay, and you can get through them. Problems, all of our problems vary according to our development. My problems may be a little bit more challenging than your problem because my faith is being increased. No longer am I in high school of faith or in college, undergraduate of faith. I moved beyond graduate school. I got my PhD in my faith, and now my faith, I always have CEUs. When you get a certain discipline, you got to stay current in your discipline, and so you get continuing education units. So when I have situations show up in my life at this point in my life, even though I lead a spiritual conversation, I have my own things because it helps me keep my sword sharp. So we all must know that we are never given more than we can handle. A problem, when rightly met, becomes a stepping stone to greater unfoldment. This is important. Sometimes more or less quickly according to our faithfulness, meaning if we're faithful if we stand inside of what we believe. And so it comes back to this. How do you get a miracle? According to your faith, be it according to what you believe. If you don't have a belief system that makes space for new possibilities, that makes space for miracles, you don't give them. You don't give them. If you think that your resolve is, I'll get it when I get to my by and by, then you'll never experience it in the here and now. So what we find when we look at the divine science as it pertains to miracles, the great discovery of the 18th century was the law included everything and controlled everything. They tapped in to the law. The still more wonderful discovery that we find here in the 20th century is that law extends also to our inner life of each one of us. In the 18th centuries, the law was more for the group and it was about religion. Now it evolves. That's why we got New Thought in the 21st century. It talks about New Thought in essence mean thinking something different. So in this new discovery, we found out that our inner life of each of us dictates our experiences. The mental, the moral, and the spiritual phases of our being are lawful, meaning they run according to a set of laws. You have to understand that. It is a marvelous experience for us to come to the understanding that we are subject to inharmony, that is when you're not in alignment with the truth, only as long as we submit to it. So if you are ignorant, to ignorant means not know. If you don't know, then guess what? You need opportunities to grow. Enlightenment will free us. When we look at the scriptures, we find that Jesus says, you shall know the truth. To know means to be intimate, not you should be aware. We have a lot of people who are aware of the truth. We have a lot of people who can quote scriptures, a lot of people who know the holy books, but they are not intimate with it. They don't practice what they preach. Oh, you know love, but you commit a act of aggression against someone that is unwarranted. You weren't even attacked. You withhold a promotion from someone based solely on their different thinking or look different from you. But you go to church on Sunday and say you express love. So that's not, so I'm talking about people who practice what they teach. As long as we believe that source sends suffering, we shall consider trouble and disease inevitable. So if you believe that God put sickness on you, then you cannot believe that God takes sickness off you, because why would God put sickness on you to take it off of you? No, but that's stinking wrong thinking. But inside of the divine science and many of the New Thought and the Word of Faith churches, they don't preach that. Okay, so we have to move from considering that disease is inevitable. We got to move from the thinking that sickness is inevitable. Now, if you are operating as a mere human being, that is your condition. But if you are operating inside of the possibility that you are a divine spiritual being, then there's a new option for you. When we come to know the truth of source's omnipotence, is omnipresence, that wherever it is, you are, wherever you are, it is, that it resides in you, that you don't define yourself by this container, but you can define yourself by that which is contained in the container. Now you're setting yourself for the miraculous. That's important. We shall accept our birthright of perfect harmony. We're in alignment with source. Physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Every process, every experience is according to law. We have to come to that realization. Everything operates according to a law. We are where we are in circumstances and in development by our understanding of that law, not by chance. Nothing is happening to you by chance. Everything is happening to you by choice. Now, you may say, I didn't make the choice for this, but you didn't make the choice against it. So there's a default. Some things happen by default. And as we come to the understanding of the great principle of the universe and train ourselves to practice these in our thinking, we live more powerfully and problems disappear from our experience. So when you talk about a miracle, when you look at anyone in the Bible, the woman with the issue of blood, her miracle was because she manifested it. She understood that if I could only touch the hem of his garment. Now, that's a good story. She identified what she believed. She believed that if I could touch, and here's the truth, it is always done unto you as you believe. Not by you, but unto you. You tap into the power that is associated with your belief when you practice the principle. That's important. So we're right at the top of the hour. And so I introduce you today to divine science and its concept of the miraculous or the problem. So a miracle always resolves a problem. And many times what we do is we focus on the effect or the outcome versus looking at the cause. And so sometimes we have to look at the cause of our problems. And for many of us, the cause of our problems is stinking thinking. Change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. And that's simply how it is. Excellent. Myrna said, love is an object, not a feeling. That's correct. Love is an action. Love is a third dimension. It's a third dimension thing. You could see it. You can feel it. You can express it. Love is not just a spiritual idea. Okay, so we have to move it from an idea. We have to move it from a feeling, an invisible state, to a physical state. An object takes action and is acted upon. Okay, so we have to act. We have to act with love. We have to present as love. So that's important. Let me see if there's anything else here this morning. So if there's anything you want to me to address quickly, just go ahead and raise your hand. If you got a question, if you have an observation, you can go ahead and do that. If somebody is also looking on the YouTube feed, I can't see it, and you see something there, you can either copy it and put it over here or text it to me and I will address it. So there you have it. You can join me the next 3 weeks and I'm going to be unpacking we're going to look at the religious science, which is the Centers for Spiritual Living. We're going to look at unity. We're going to talk about the word of faith that many of you are probably more familiar with. And we're going to look at in terms of the miracle. And so I'll take you back this morning to what is the miracle that you desire? And then you got to relook at that miracle from the perspective of how does my thinking, my belief align with the possibility of a miracle? You may desire a miracle, but if your belief is one that says there's no possibility of a miracle, then you're just going to have frustration. That's important. So as we wrap up this morning, because I've been ready to go and teach a lesson at the Center for Divine Love, which is a divine science church this morning. And you can join me on their YouTube channel, Center for Divine Love. The YouTube channel, Facebook page this morning, and then you can get a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about. But today we're talking about non-resistance. We have to understand whatever's showing up in our life is showing up for a reason, and what you want to do is understand why is it showing up now, and then you get in alignment with it, and you begin to shift it. You begin to shape it in the way that it should be shifted and shaped. And it's usually not by an activity other than your thinking. So that's important. Okay, so life is not a struggle. It's only a lack of consciousness that makes the struggle a living. It does not have to be a struggle. Okay, you have a lack of consciousness of the law. And if you live the law, if you trust in the law, lean not to your understanding, there's no struggle. There's no inharmony there. That's all I have this morning. If this ministry has been a blessing to you, you can go ahead and go over to our website, oasisspiritualcenter.com. Go to the website and go over to the giving tab, and you'll find a way to get transmuted from you to the ministry that which you want to send to us if you have found any level of value in this conversation. Or if you use if you use Cash App, you can just type in $ Oasis Spiritual Center. That should come to us. Or if that's difficult for you, you can just type in the phone number of the ministry, 708-368-1076, 708-368-1076. Now there you have it. I thank you for your time. My time is spent, and I hope you found value in this morning. I will edit it out, and I'll get this out to the YouTube channel unedited. But thank you for joining us this morning. I hope something has been said that has been uplifting and encouraging. And I want to say to you that miracles happen every day. Like the lotus flower that is birthed out of a very miry situation, submerged in it. You may be submerged in something, but when the light of day comes, you can rise. And that's what enlightenment is about. And not only do you rise, but you unfold. And when you unfold, you allow the law of the land, not this natural law, but the universal laws, the law of life that comes forth from our sun, to cause you to just open up and to present as your highest and greatest good. Thank you for your time. Mine is spent. I'm Greg Stanton, also known as Asar. Peace. See y'all next week.